T black jewelry. I know I stand out, I don't need a try for leg. I jack the limelight if you don't think ahead quick. I tell them catch me if you can, on some gingerbread. Oh, I never ride solo. It's me and my chick looking like slow-mo.
Yo, guys, what's going on, everybody out there in the Tampa area? Hey, I got Admiral Ken Carodine on today. We're going to talk about his book, the Tom Clancy. And I'm not going to even say the brother Tom Clancy or the black Tom Clancy. I'm just going to say, hey, he's got a guy named Ben McGuire, Captain McGuire, and he's making his noise out there in 2 books. So he's got one called General Quarters that's out. It's an awesome book. If you haven't got it, I'll flash it up later to let you know how to get a copy of it. But by the way, how are you doing today, Ken?
Good morning. I'm doing great. Great to be with you. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? You're a great author. I read through your book. I'm going to get to the first one that you originally wrote, but the one you have right now, General Quarters, is excellent. You know, talking about the things that are current events right now, because, you know, Hickson was actually talking about Taiwan the other day and about the United States.
China's the gift that keeps on giving, one way or the other.
And, you know, so tell everybody a little bit about your service real quick before we get into you becoming an author after you retired from the Navy.
Sure. I'm originally from Huntsville, Alabama, an Army town, not known for generating a lot of Navy people, but I decided to go against the grain at an early age. Graduated from the Naval Academy in 1982, did about 32 years of active duty as a surface warfare officer. So I was one of those guys in the real Navy, as we like to say, on ships. So we make guys like Top Gun look good because we're doing all the hard work.
I love it. Hey, Maverick was good, but you know, anything with fighter jets, like, you know, Red Tails, everybody, they get the love, man, but nobody sees the things behind the scene, you know?
Exactly right. Exactly right. We keep the carriers safe while they're out making movies.
That's right. Hey, so when did you retire, and then what got you into writing novels, like fiction novels?
Sure. So I retired from the Navy in 2013, and while I was on active duty, I went to graduate school and got a master's in information systems and business administration. So I've been in the IT space since then. I actually started writing in high school. I was a big science fiction nerd. I am quite knowledgeable of the Star Trek universe, so I was big on that. And so, as you can imagine, going to the Naval Academy, I didn't really have time to keep that up. My junior year, someone handed me a copy of Red Storm Rising, one of Tom Clancy's first books. Right. And I was as much blown away by the story as I was the way that he delivered it. I went on to read a couple of other books that stuck with me, Winds of War by Herman Wouk. And then I think when I was a lieutenant, when I was a lieutenant in the Navy, the Navy sent me to the Navy Surface Warfare School, and a submarine warfare school. And first day of class, instructor walks in with a big box of books, and it's Hunt for Red October. And I was, number one, blown away by how accurate it was. At the school, they told us, read this book, come back in a week, and we went on from there. So that tells you that the Navy really was impressed by this too. Right. So I think the thing that got me going was, you know, reading a number of Clancy's books and watching the subsequent movies. I thought, man, you know, what the world needs is a blackjack riot. You know, he needs to be a Navy officer. He needs to be African-American. He needs to have gone to the Naval Academy, and he needs to be one of those people that, despite what the circumstances might deal him, he always finds a way to succeed and get the job done. And so that was the genesis of how I got into writing. I think I wrote Nuclear Dragon in the course of about 6 months.
Wow.
And I had a pretty good idea of what I wanted the story to tell. And interestingly, so Nuclear Dragon was initially published as All the Tea. And I want to say that came out in 1998. And I stopped writing for a while because my Navy career really took off. And I had several command jobs, and it just was not enough time to do the writing. And so about the time I was getting ready to retire, I picked up the pen again and I started writing because I wanted to continue the Ben McGuire story. And that was the genesis for General Quarters. Interestingly, if you're a flag officer in the Navy and you want to publish anything, be it fiction or nonfiction, you have to have it approved by the Navy Chief of Information, who at the time was my office mate. And I took the first draft of General Quarters to him. He took it home over the weekend and he said, "Hey, dude, do me a favor. Don't publish this while I'm here. You'll make my life a living hell." Because it deals with China trying to take over Taiwan and the U.S. standing in the way of it, both politically and militarily. So I think it's a pretty good story.
So you had to put a pause on it. So let me ask you, how much of your normal challenges and things that you dealt with going in through the Navy, because just like me being a flag, there's a nuance of certain challenges that you're a little bit older than me, so you went through. I want to say thank you for your service, because
you too.
You guys kind of set the conditions for the evolution of Vince Buggs and the follow-on generals, because when you came up here from the Army side, it was just Colin Powell and Benjamin from the Air Force. So there's just certain, numbers at certain ranks at that time. So, it was a massive achievement being African-American and just being a flag in the Navy at the time, because I knew the percentages back then because we were tracking them. And then 60 Minutes did a big documentary on it. So how much of that has correlated into your writing as you had your own journey?
Wow. Great question. So let's start out in a not too distant past. I remember my first week of high school in Huntsville, Alabama, and the guidance counselor coming to me and saying, "What do you think you want to do with your future?" And I said, "Well, that's easy. I want to go to Naval Academy. I want to be a naval aviator." And her response was, "I think it's important that you keep your expectations realistic." Okay, so when I got to the Naval Academy, one of my classmates made the comment to me, "You're not supposed to be here. They only let you in because you're black." And so after I graduated from the Naval Academy, some number of years later, and by the way, on my first ship, I was the only black officer. On my second ship, which was a frigate, out of 20 officers or so, there were 2 of us that were black. So I think while I was a captain, 06 in the Navy, one of my contemporaries laughed in my face at the prospect of me becoming an admiral. So after I became an admiral, you see how it goes, right? And so, I think it's important that, for me, never to forget from where I came from. My mother was an educator. As a matter of fact, most of my sister's a teacher. My mom, most of my entire adult family were educators, and they put a very high premium on school. You've met me in person. I do not present the image of someone who's going to be successful in the NFL or the NBA, and so I had to find a different course. And as an adult now, as a retiree, I try to engage young people as much as I can to show them that you don't have to be a superstar athlete or a superstar actress or performer, to find a course in this world that can be successful for you. My friends are always giving me a hard time because whenever I meet somebody, I go immediately into recruiting mode for the Navy or for the Naval Academy, because as many of us as there are now, there are still not enough. I'm the 25th African American flag officer in the Navy, and I want to see only the second from the state of Alabama. There's room for more. There's tons of room for more. There's room for more.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm from Bossier City, Louisiana, and on this tar road, I always remind people I was born in a house by a midwife, and And it's funny to think that across the street is Waller Elementary. It has like one of the lowest academic rates in Louisiana.
Yeah.
A general passed through there. The fact that I came out of that into this. And so it correlates to when you tie in your character, and you've kind of stated that you've evolved. He evolves now throughout your books. Is he evolving as well as like you did through your career?
Very much so. In Nuclear Dragon, he's a commander. He's a reservist, and he finds himself in the middle of a situation that he had received no prior training to resolve. As a matter of fact, as the situation evolves and people as far away as Washington, D.C. understand that they've somehow stuck a no-name Navy reservist in a very, very difficult situation, there are some concerns about how well this person's going to be able to succeed.
Right.
Again, that situation where, okay, who is this person and why do we, why is he there? And so obviously through his own guile, he figures it out and he's able to succeed. In General Quarters, because of that aforementioned success, he's now starting to get some allies, much like I did along the way, that provide opportunities for him to do something a little different, never thinking that it was going to blow up into this huge multinational, highly charged political event that culminates in a sea fight in the Straits of Taiwan. And I'll give you a hint. There's another book coming, and he will evolve further still.
So and I'm going to stay on this because I think it's very important for the listeners to hear this. You as a flag officer and one of the very few that are selected, I look at it as your journey, right? And then you evolve into writing books, and now you're trying to get others to, because you're in the limited class again as an author, being not just as an African American author, but writing military books. You're in a niche that you're not like, you're like the 1% again. So my thing is, what drives you as a human being and a person that you realize that, you said that, people open doors for you along the way. And what drives you to constantly go into what I call uncomfortable zones that are particularly not predominantly dominated by people of color, but yet you have this fearless stance to go into those circles anyway?
Well, I appreciate the thought that I'm fearless, because I am not. I think I've been in a constant state of discomfort most of my adolescent and adult life. I was not comfortable at the Naval Academy. I was not comfortable on either of the ships that I went to. I was not comfortable doing my short time in flight school. I definitely was not comfortable as an admiral. But I think in every one of those situations, I did something that my father was pretty good at teaching my siblings and myself. 2 ears, one mouth. Listen more, talk less, and you learn a lot more. And at least when you open your mouth, don't confirm the fact that people in the room think you're an idiot. Make sure you say something that's going to be noteworthy and worthwhile.
Wow.
I think that the primary thing that drives me is I will tell you, when I was in the Navy, I just wanted to be the best Navy officer I could. I just want to be the best leader that I could be. As an information technology executive, I will tell you that same drive of being the best leader that I can possibly be drives me almost every day. It drives me. It's a big part of my belief. I became a Christian about 3 years ago. I mean, though I grew up in the church, I really grabbed on, and I've found that my faith allows me to clearly understand what empathy is all about, and empathy and sympathy are two different things.
Yes.
To lead with empathy, to understand that most people come to work to do a good job. They may have some differing ideas of what a good job looks like, but no one comes to work with the intent to blow things up. And I think that a lot of the peers that I've worked with since leaving the Navy don't understand that. And while we have a lot of managers out here, we don't have very many leaders. And my goal in life is to be the best version of a leader that I can possibly be. Understanding that you never learn everything, that you're constantly figuring out new ways and better ways to do it. But at the core of what we do, we never forget the people. And so I try to emulate that in my writing. I try to make sure that Ben McGuire and the people that he comes into contact with understand that this guy's a little different. You know, he's not high on who he is. He's high on what he can do to make the situation better.
Oh, yeah, I love the way you frame that, and the way you address that is it's not, it's just knowledge being dropped. And if anybody, when they watch this and they listen to us, they need to really take heed to that, because I think a lot of young officers in the military today, there's a lack of mentoring, right? And so I'm constantly talking to everyone about it, and there's a lack of and not just the word empathy, but I think humble leadership is not as prevalent as people think it is.
I agree.
Because I think we've grown up in a generation starting at the end of the 90s to where, and I think really during the 90s when we decided to go to the reduction of the force, which was survival of the fittest. And in the Army, we had the term that we eat our young.
Same in the Navy. The Navy surface warfare community has a reputation of being one of those organizations that eats its young.
Right.
I would say that I would have to agree with that, and it's unfortunate. I have seen in the later years now, we're trying to turn away from that. I think a big driver in that is the fact that recruitment's down.
Right.
People have got options now. The economy, despite what you might want to see in the news, the economy's pretty good.
It is.
It's not great, but it's pretty good. And while there are not enough Vinces and Kens in the military forces, there was a time when my avenue out of Huntsville was fairly limited.
Right.
And that's not the situation anymore. My daughter went to college here in the Tampa area. She's now a journalist for a travel magazine, and that young woman has seen more of the world at 34 than I've seen at 66. And that's because, and they're flying all over the place. So they've got options now. They've got options. But at the same time, I think that lack of just a bunch of people coming in, I think is driving people to try and understand better ways to lead and better ways to relate to the people that are on their teams.
Right. And one thing I do actually tell my daughters this, and this is my thing, is that sometimes you have to embrace the struggle. And I think that one of my daughters asked me this the other day, and it was really ironic because she's thinking about joining the Army now that she's gotten out of college going OCS. And she asked me, she goes, "What makes you so resilient and so tough under situations and stay calm?" Well, I explained to her, I said, it's like the butterfly coming out of the cocoon. If you get help, it dies. If it has to struggle through it, it evolves. She said, so why don't more people evolve? And I said, and that's the sad thing about it. I said, as you look from a societal standpoint, regardless of which aisle you sit on, which I tell people I don't care, that at the end of the day, people don't want to have to go through that struggle to get where they need to be. Because I'm looking at you. You're an author. You were in the military, so you got title, and then you have a hobby that is evolving. I think a lot of people lack that, even at our age. And I'm 60, so let me just be clear. And I would like your take on this. I see so many people of our age so disgruntled and so upset. But what I see is that when they retire from the military, and I'm going to talk about veterans because this is what I'm very keen on, is I see a lot of my friends that are veterans that retire, they either run back to the government job for security and validation, and they struggle with just the simple transition of getting back in the community and giving back to the community. Yeah, you're not going to make $100,000. Yet you're bringing vital skill sets that the community needs that we got with the Vietnam vets, the Korean vets, the World War II vets when we grew up. Great thing I say is that we had all those different facets in our classrooms. We had them working in the community. And I'd be talking to someone, they're like, "Oh yeah, I was in the Korean War, bugs, hit." At the time, I'm like 12 years old, 10 years old, or Vietnam. And they had an influence on me joining the military. I don't see that a lot no more.
Well, I think there's a connection that is made between a dream and a vision. I've got a gentleman. He's a retired Coast Guardsman. Runs a very successful catering firm here in town, and he would tell you that it's one thing to dream, but when you've got a vision, the vision means that you've got to put in the work.
Right.
Nothing. My mom was really good about saying this. Nothing worth having comes without putting in the work. For instance, in the writing space, all of us have done some sort of expository writing. If you've done a book report of any kind, if you've written an email trying to explain something to somebody, you've done expository writing. Writing for fiction is completely different. I mean, I spent years learning how to distinguish between telling and showing, and you've got to put in the work to be able to whatever it is. My next venture, I think, is gonna be something that's hopefully related to this. I'm not sure how far it's going to go, but I'm constantly learning how to tell the story better and differently than I've told them before.
Right.
But the work piece it's absolutely required to be successful in any of this. And a lot of people just don't want to do the work these days. And that's they're expecting the success to just come. And I can tell you, man, I had to work to get in the Naval Academy. I had to go to prep school for a year. I had to work my butt off to get out of the Naval Academy. And, every job I've ever had has required me to stretch and go do something differently. And I tried to bring that to the stories that I'm writing. Stretching is absolutely required. Discomfiture is just part of the deal.
All right. So when I was in school, I was a creative writer. So my take is, what was your creativity side? Because for me, creative writing became easy. Structured writing was my struggle.
Okay.
Struggle. So right now, I've actually I'm editing my book right now.
Okay.
The one I wrote, my first military book. And right now, my struggle is not the creative pieces that I put in there. It's going back and having to hit the analog pieces,
that
are the destructive pieces. So you want the opposite way. So what drive you to become more of a creative writer? Is it because it seems like it's not in your wheelhouse, but you've done such a great job with these books?
So as I said, I started writing in high school, and it was these really, really weird, crazy science fiction stories, right? And then when I decided, I think I was a lieutenant commander, 04 for you guys. I sat down in front of my new computer and I started writing this War and Peace sized treatise about my last year at the Naval Academy. And let me tell you, it will never see the light of day in its current form. Okay, I will. Not going to happen. Probably like it would be as good as you trying to write a scientific paper based on your
It's not going to happen.
It's never going to happen, right?
It's never going to happen.
But I did the thing that I always did. I always try to go to people who know something about the thing that I'm trying to do that I don't know that I might be able to get some instruction from. And I happened upon someone who had been published as a fiction writer. He took a look at that story. He came back the next day and said, "Sit down. I got good news and I got bad news." I went, "Okay. The good news is you got a story you want to tell. The bad news is you're doing a terrible job of telling it. You need to learn how to write fiction." And so I joined a writing group. And every week I sat down with these people. And I embarrassed myself tremendously. But at the same time, I heard what other people were doing, and they explained to me how they were attacking the craft. And pretty soon I had an idea, I had a story, and I wrote it. And ironically, that year I won an award for best new fiction. And by the way, it's not General Quarters and it's not Nuclear Dragon. And that story is coming out hopefully sometime late this year, early next year as a novel.
Oh, congratulations. So before we get here to the end of the show, I need to ask you, what advice do you give anyone that's looking at pursuing to be a creative writer?
Number one, go ahead and tell your story. Your story is your story. You should feel comfortable writing it. Number two, from a mechanics perspective, write an outline. I spent, I think I mentioned before, on Nuclear Dragon, I spent 6 months writing it. That's because I kind of built the outline along the way. General Quarters, I wrote that in 2.5 months.
Wow.
The next story is going to be, and the Ben McGuire series has got the working title Flag Country. I did it in about 2 months. That's because I wrote an outline and I followed it meticulously. And then when I wanted to add on things, I had to make sure that it fit into the framework and the structure of the story.
Oh,
The
gotcha.
last thing that I would say is don't stop because someone doesn't like what you're writing or says that it's not very good.
Right.
To get a lot of feedback. Get as many test readers as there are people willing to listen or read what you've completed. And finally, you have to approach it in the mindset of this is something that I want to do. I want to continuously find a way to improve on it, to get better at it, and don't quit. Just keep going.
All right. So that was the side for people that want to write. Now I'm going to ask the side for the people that are in the military or young African American that want to join, or people of color who are trying to get into a predominantly European force. Even though, and I say that and everybody goes, "Whoa, they're Americans." Yeah, but they're all descendants from Europe or some forms of Central Europe. So let's keep it 100.
Okay.
When you look at that, what advice do you give that young person that's going to the academy? Or like I give the ROTC cadets at Georgia Southern is I tell them we were one of the few programs in the United States that graduate the most African Americans in the officer corps. We're one of the few schools, Georgia Southern, and it's a predominantly white school, which is ironic. It blows my mind that we're able to do that. And 3 generals came out of 2 classes when I was there. Right. So what advice would you give those young people that decide to step into that realm of the academy life?
So the first thing that I would tell you is choosing the military, whether it's a service academy, ROTC, or just straight up enlisting. You need to remember that you are now becoming a part of something that's bigger than yourself. And that has never changed. I think it's always been that way. The second thing that I would say, and this is based on either I did it or I failed to do it. Along the way, right?
I like how you said that.
Have a goal for yourself. I when I went to the Naval Academy, I wanted to be a pilot.
Gotcha.
And got partially through the flight program, and I had some medical issues that required me to go do something else. And I still owe the Navy lots of time from my college diploma. Being a surface warfare officer was not my first choice, but it was clear to me this is what God intended. God wanted me to do. And if God puts you someplace, then your part of that is to do the best version of it that you possibly can, because there's going to be rewards, there's going to be benefits for it. Again, we talked about this a few moments ago. Success presents the image that it's easy to get there. It is not. Prepare yourself for a ride. I had the fortune of going back to my high school in my last public appearance in uniform in 2013 to deliver the baccalaureate address. And my challenge to the alumni of my high school was that, whatever you're going to do, whether it's the military or not, pick your course, steer it the best way you possibly can. Have a goal for yourself. Make it a 3-year goal. I'm going to be at this place in 3 years. You'll be surprised, 1, how fast you get there. And number 2, you shouldn't be surprised by the level of success, because if you're smart about it, you understand what you got to do to get there, and you'll get those blocks. As far as the academy goes, it took an extra year because I went to prep school before I went. Okay. I think it was the best decision I could have possibly made for me. I knew there were multiple kids from my school that had gone to the Naval Academy. At one point when I was at the academy, there were more kids from Madison County, Alabama at the U.S. Naval Academy than any other county in the country. Listen to that. Yeah. Madison County, Alabama. And that was in 1982. Things have changed since then. But much like learning to write, much like learning anything new and different, I sought out mentors to basically, and they didn't come find me. I had to seek them out to tell me what I wanted to tell me about what I wanted to do, and whether help me understand how best to go about making it happen. And then once I was there, figuring out how best to succeed at it. I think there's no substitute for finding good mentors, but you have to get off your butt and go look for them. They're out here. We'll talk to you. I'll talk to you until you're blue in the face, and which is a lot for us about the Navy and about the military in general. But I would say the key thing is to make a plan and get some mentors. You have to get that. You have to do it that way. Boom,
mic drop. That is spot on. And I think that's where this generation is lacking of understanding. You have to seek knowledge, because that's what we were, taught during the times we were going out. But before we get out of here, I'm going to throw your website up and kind of give everybody a spill on, or when do you have another book signing coming up, or what, any events coming up? What you got going on, kid?
In the event category, we're looking at doing a book signing up here in Brandon, probably at the Barnes and Noble. Haven't set a date on it yet. I'm looking at going on a couple of the local radio stations here shortly as well. I think the one big thing I'm looking at doing is having a signing party, and Vince, I'll make sure that you're on the invite for that. And I see a TaylorMade hat there. Am I to assume that you're a golfer?
Hey, look, you live in River Hills. We had this conversation. Fred's in Italy right now.
I'm calling you out, man. I'm calling you out. Okay.
So when Fred gets back from Italy, I told him we're going to get on the phone and we're going to hit the Pearl.
That's right. Absolutely. But yeah, the marketing campaign for General Quarters is just starting up. I've got a really amazing woman working with me, Michelle Cassiata. She's acting as my publicist, and we're going to do some good things done here, starting here in the area, and then we're going to branch out across the country. But thanks for asking. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. So, hey guys, if you get a chance to get out, get a copy of General Quarters. Right now, it's I already put it in the poster to be at the bottom of the posting when we get the show runs. The show run next week, and when it runs, it'll have everything in there you can click on, and also Ken's Facebook page. All that there, you get in touch with him, and if you need a mentor and you're in the military, it doesn't matter what branch of service. Reach out. Though I'm a Navy guy, I like Army guys. One of my best friends is a West Pointer. So, but yeah, I like Army guys. And my favorite line from any movie is I can't remember where he goes. Yeah, we love those Navy guys. They always give us a ride where we need to go. Okay, Vince, we're gonna have to talk about that. That's not appropriate, my buddy. That's not appropriate. All right, Ken, it's been great having you on. Thank you. You have a great day, and I'll be talking to you soon, man. Later. Bye.